Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm really excited to welcome you to our first customer conference. It's been an incredible few years for us, in particular this past year from a business standpoint. In a space as grounded in the realities of business as automation, everything we've learned that matters comes from working with you. So thank you. And just look at what you're doing. 7,000 customers and over 1,000 partners, and these numbers have been accelerating. We now have over 500,000 public recipes in our GitHub style community across over 1,000 applications. And the growth in usage has been unbelievable. You're doing more than 3.5 times as much automation year over year by any measure, tasks or workflows or workloads. With the amazing work you're doing, we're seeing a new pattern for automation emerge, one that is rapidly getting you more connected and more engaged across your companies. It is a fingerprint of a new type of approach with companies that are ready to handle change and disruption. Today, we will talk about this new approach and how it will make a difference in how we tackle challenges. We just came through one of the most challenging and unpredictable years of our lifetimes. We've had to adapt to an incredible amount of change. The world has seen some radical disruptions in the past, like manufacturing, printing press, aviation, and internet. These technology-driven revolutions reimagined how we lived, worked, and created in fundamental ways. They created brand new industries. Make no mistake, we are in the midst of another revolution now. And this time, it is different. It is existential, and it is happening at a warp speed. It will separate companies that will own their own destinies in the rapidly reshaping markets from those that will go away. The system shock of COVID goes far beyond the challenges of remote work and social distancing. COVID also exposed the deeper challenges that already existed in our businesses. It is these fundamental issues and the massive changes in customer behaviors and the market opportunities that we must get in front of. Are you all tired of seeing this meme yet? Unfortunately, this is the story for many companies. This is sort of funny, but the reality is not so funny. We actually face a major issue. More than 80% of companies believe that digital transformation is crucial to them now, but only 3% believe they're making real progress. Even before the pandemic, digital transformation was supposed to be a top priority for a long time. But let's face it, in reality, there's been a lot of inertia and resistance to change, and we've been held back. For most companies, digital transformation has been far too slow and far too limited. The truth is, we've reached a point where the gradual approach and slow progress is no longer viable. The pandemic has really busted this inertia, and business as usual is not an option for most of us. When you're faced with a revolution in our business environment, we must be all in. To do this, we must activate all of our resources and our entire organization and take what we call a holistic approach. What does a holistic approach look like? It's about coherently connecting all of your apps and technologies and having your entire organization across product, IT, and business teams be engaged and working together. And it is about getting to the state of adaptability or flow to not just solve the problems, challenges that are thrown at them, but also to tackle whatever comes up in future. Enterprises that take this kind of holistic approach are unfazed by adversity and relish challenges as opportunities to improve. In neuroscience, this concept is called neuroplasticity. And in psychology, it is often referred to as growth mindset. It is the quality that in response to challenges makes people and organizations roll up their sleeves and eager to get to work. We'll explore this approach a bit more later and what that looks like in our organizations. But first, let's take a look at our current IT and technology landscape to see how we're set up for being able to adapt to changes quickly and transform our businesses fast. It seems like there's never been a better time to be an IT leader today, right? We have hundreds of awesome SaaS applications and APIs across all parts of our business, as well as incredible big data analytics and AI ML technologies. As you know, all of these apps and technologies need to be connected across the board to make them work. There are a lot of different tools that have come up to help us do this. You have data integration tools like iPaaS to sync data between applications. Tools like ETL to bulk load data from apps into data warehouses like Snowflake for analysis. Or API management tools for developers to code up integrations. And then you have business process-centric tools like RPA for task automations and business process management or BPM for automating end-to-end workflows. And then you have chatbots to unify the UX around how we work across these apps from within tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams. And finally, you have a number of these citizen integration tools in the shadows that are used by people across marketing, sales, and other groups. Each of these tools addressed needs of specific projects and made sense at the time. Unfortunately, collectively, it is a mess. The architectural pattern that reflects it is actually just called a mess. It is like using separate digital cameras, MP3 players, navigation devices, DVD players, and a mobile phone instead of one smartphone that can do it all and better. What's worse is that these are not some small, inexpensive tools like cameras or MP3 players. They're massively expensive, deeply integrated into our systems, and require tons of developer upkeep. Overall, completely gunking up our organizations. This situation is anything but holistic. The problem, however, is not just the complexity of this alphabet soup of tools, but the tools themselves are flawed and not as easy or modern as we need them to be. Let's look at some of the more popular ones. RPA, for example, can save you some costs by automating a lot of manual clicking and works great with legacy or on-prem systems. But it has this tragic flaw that it locks you in the current process inflexibly. You're spinning in place a lot faster. It is the opposite of adaptability. Integration and iPaaS is another hot category. It has been I've been part of building a couple of these tools in the past. They're incredibly powerful and secure, but the bad news is like you need a computer science major with a wizard hat to make it go. We don't have enough of those people in our companies, and we don't have the time it takes. And then there are people in business teams. They can't use tools like iPaaS or RPA as they're not technical. So they go underground and use these janky tools to sync data between apps or do little workflows. They're too limited, do not scale, and expose sensitive customer or employee information. We believe we've been given this logical fallacy of a false set of choices. You can either get powerful, slow, and technical for IT, or easy, janky, and fast for business. That's not actually a choice. We need both power and speed for both business and IT. It's like you can either build a swing set in your backyard with a concrete mixer and a construction crew to last 1,000 years, or one with Tinker Toys and Legos you won't trust your child with. There is a better way, and that is enabling a holistic approach, one that is powerful, connected, and that is great for both business and IT. What does it mean to take this kind of a holistic approach? First, we must be completely connected across our company. All of our applications, cloud or on-prem, not just from one of data or data process or UX standpoints, but across all of those dimensions. When a new customer places an order, it's a momentous thing in our companies. It isn't just syncing data between CRM and ERP, or just about workflows to enable the features the customer just bought, or just about delivering a unified customer onboarding experience. It's about all of these working together in tandem. Second, we must be completely engaged and activated across the entire company, IT, business, and product teams. It must be low code, no code, not just because business teams can use it, but because power users can go faster. Power users want modern too. It needs to work like Funbox, where business operations and product teams were able to collaborate to rapidly deploy new loan processing workflows under the PPP loan deadline in 2 days to be able to process $500 million of loans to help struggling small businesses last summer. Next, we must be able to tap into the collective intelligence of thousands of others that are solving similar problems. Developers have an amazing resource in GitHub to draw upon when they do new projects. Yet, in IT today, we have people in 10,000 companies independently solving for problems like how to harness customer signals and reduce churn, or to convert our leads better. Taking a holistic approach means building on the experiences of the larger community, so we don't have to start from scratch and repeat the same mistakes. We believe all of us is better than one of us. Companies like Salesloft were inspired by recipes in our community to quickly surface up intent signals from services like G2 and TechTarget with prospects so you can convert them better. Finally, all of this comes down to being adaptable in real time to business events and challenges. It is about cultivating this growth mindset in our companies across our systems, experiences, people, to rapidly implement our plans and be ready for whatever the world throws at us, things we can't predict. We will hear from companies like Grab, whose main business, ride hailing, nearly disappeared overnight, and they had to completely pivot the company to new products and services at warp speed. So how does this all work? This kind of an ability to be adaptive and in the flow across your company to tackle anything sounds almost too good to be real. It sounds like it is some kind of magic. It is not magic. It is a Workato recipe. We built our company around the concept of these recipes. A recipe is a conversational way of describing how we want our applications to work together, and how we want our people to interact with our systems. So in this example, when a new ticket is created in Zendesk, we pick up on additional signals like tone via the Watson Tone Analyzer. If the tone is urgent, we update and sync the ticket data into Salesforce, and we text the account rep via Twilio or DM them in Slack. It is an intelligent workflow with a data sync and a seamless UX for engaging relevant team members. Data, workflows, and UX are not separate things in a recipe. It could be a 2-line ELT recipe that's moving terabytes of data, or a 100-line one that describes how to onboard employees based on their role and department and rules. With recipes, business and IT are literally on the same page. They can both see how it works exactly and tweak it as often as they want. Recipes are backed by the full expressive power of a Druby-based DSL, so it supports all of these patterns that require independent tools like iPaaS, ELT, API management, workflows, and chatbots in one platform with a unified approach. When you create a new recipe, our AI assists you to build better recipes faster. It is serverless. There is nothing for you to operate. Every run of a recipe runs in its own container, so it scales without ever running out of capacity or slowing down. Recipes never have to be bought down for maintenance, even when we release new versions of our software. So they run like Google search or Instagram, and that are always on. They run like utilities. You plug into Workato recipes and you turn on the power of automation at scale at a high speed for everyone in your company. There's been nothing like this in the history of middleware platforms. A couple of other things about recipes. They can connect to anything with an API, on-prem or cloud app, or any other kind of data source, IoT streams, etc. We have over 1,000 pre-built application and technology connectors out of box, and an SDK that can be used to create your own new ones very quickly. Our community is creating over 500 new connectors per month for their own use. Today, we are excited to add an entirely new dimension to the connectors, a set of intelligent connectors that let you extract structured content from unstructured or dark data that is locked up in documents like contracts and invoices. For example, you can extract invoice data from images of invoices with our FSsoft connector. You can connect with mainframes or legacy systems that don't have APIs with our UiPath connector. You can now use all of the content in your apps together with the unstructured content that was locked up in these documents and media. Third, as we mentioned, Workato is like a GitHub for automations. We have over 500,000 public recipes spanning over 1,000 applications created by our community. We also have hundreds of recipe collections that are sets of recipes that accomplish bigger projects like automating the employee onboarding and hire to retire workflows. The starting product experience in Workado is in fact not a recipe or a workflow building tool. It's a search bar where you can go find recipes that are similar to what you're looking to do around order execution, lead management, or any of the thousands of other use cases. Most Workado users start with an existing recipe and adapt it, rather than start from scratch. The recipes in our community cover all kinds of business workflows, from sales and marketing to customer success to IT, HR, finance, and even supply chain. But if you're an enterprise architect, you're not just solving for specific business problems like order to cash, you're looking to solve for entire classes of problems. You're often looking for bespoke tools that solve for patterns like approval workflows, ELT data loading, data hubs, and such. To make it even easier for architects to get going with these solution patterns like Enterprise Data Hub, ELT pipelines, Approval Spot for Slack, we're excited to launch automation accelerators. Like with recipe collections for business users, you can accelerate solving for these technology patterns by just cloning the solutions into your account and get going even faster. And finally, we mentioned earlier that the scale at which our customers are automating across the business has been truly staggering. So to enhance the management of these processes across an organization, we're introducing Automation HQ, a new management framework for governing Workado operations. Automation HQ includes some major advancements to our federated workspaces to centrally provision and control apps, tasks, and other resources across a variety of workspaces. A business operations console so administrators can better understand usage and user activity across all workspaces in an enterprise. A significant update of our automated lifecycle management for more advanced development, testing, and production deployment of automation workflows. And finally, custom communities to enable customers and ISV and SI partners to develop their own curated automation communities for sharing pre-built automations to their own customers. You will remember these charts from the beginning of my session. We track this data for all our customers. That is, how many apps are our customers connecting? How many people are engaged in automating in your companies? And the number of automations that are in production. The charts all look very similar. It's amazing, and it never gets old. We are obsessed with enabling this kind of automation at scale in your companies. What is even better than charts is hearing from the people behind them. So let's do that now. We're honored to speak with 5 amazing CIOs and CTOs today with very different perspectives on transformation. They're from companies that faced an existential crisis last summer to ones that were prepared from a systems and automation standpoint and yet had to take their game to the next level. We'll start off with Toast and Grab. Toast was mainly a restaurant point of sale business, and Grab was mainly a ride-hailing company. Their businesses almost disappeared all overnight last summer, but they completely reinvented themselves. Today, their businesses are not only stronger and better than before the pandemic, but they're incredibly well set for even greater success going forward. I'm really excited to hear the inside story of how they achieved this. And we'll start off with Toast. Okay, we're really excited to have Anisha Vaswani join me here today. She's the CIO of Toast. She was the CIO of Box until a few months ago. And we had the honor of working with Anisha and her team at Box for a couple of years. And Toast was already like a really great customer of Workado. So it was really fortuitous for us to reconnect at Toast. So Anisha, first of all, when you look, the restaurant industry was just looking down the abyss about a year ago. There's no way of sugarcoating that. And Toast has had to make some tough personnel decisions. And Box was doing great, and it was in this digital sort of platforms that were getting really pushed up with the pandemic related changes. How did you what was your thought process when you decided to switch from switch course. And is it like you like the challenge, or what was it?
Yeah, no, it's a totally valid question. And thank you for the intro, and thanks for having me for this discussion. So yeah, I mean, Box was, I'd been at Box for about 5 years. And when Toast came calling, I probably had the same initial reaction, which is, this is an interesting time to consider something like this, to consider a software player in the restaurant industry that was super hard hit. But as I did my due diligence and had conversations with the Toast leadership team, I think a couple of things really both resonated and made me feel very confident in the decision. I think one was the quality of the leadership team, and how they saw this role as being a very strong business enabler, right? And that's why they wanted to bring in their very first CIO. And so the ability to really directly impact business outcomes was super interesting from a future state, from how they had. The other thing that was sort of inspiring confidence in me was just how they dealt with what was undoubtedly an incredibly tough situation. As you mentioned, the restaurant industry was staring at an abyss when COVID hit last year, and the team's ability, the organization's ability to really focus on first principles, which is, our mission is to make sure we enable restaurants to be able to serve and delight their guests and really thrive in doing what they love to do, which is, being in the hospitality business and really serving their guests. And so we went back to first principles, and there was a lot of product innovation to help support restaurants through a lot of digital transformation. There was, very good execution on that. And so it's interesting when you look at opportunities. One, I love the challenge about, working with a business that's recovering from this, but also, focused and keeping very true to their principles as they came out of this. And two, I love the challenge of really sort of having IT play that very strategic role in helping enable world-class customer experiences and business outcomes, which is what the role was really designed to do. So that's really what interested me in coming to Toast in the middle of a pandemic, no less.
I think one of the projects that I think I was fascinated with is like it's kind of like very modestly called the Data Triggers Project. But can you talk a little bit about how that is like taking this whole brain type approach to
Sure.
The transformation, because this is like where the rubber meets the road for what Toast is doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can tell we're not marketing people because we called it the Data Triggers Project. So that is not a strong suit, but the concept underlying is super interesting, right? It is, as you said, one of our visions is how do we provide actionable insights to our stakeholders? Now, the stakeholder might be a restaurateur, a customer, prompt them to take a particular action, to maybe activate a product or use it more effectively. It could be to prompt our onboarding consultants or our customer care agents to provide them just-in-time insights as they're interacting with a customer. It could be to provide an AE with insights as they're getting ready to visit a customer site, for example. And so the underlying concept is, how do you marry all of the data signals coming out of whether it's your product, whether it's your business systems, whether it's interactions that the customers are having on your website, and sort of really create those actionable insights and deliver those insights to the right audience in the right time. And so we're sort of creating this underlying architecture that allows us to integrate and aggregate all these disparate sources of signal inputs and really deliver those actionable insights. And we're taking a use case by use case based approach. Some of our initial use cases that we're focusing on are really around customer activation and onboarding. So, there's a process between when you buy the product, when you get the hardware delivered, and the steps you need to take to set it up. And so that whole onboarding process, how do we make that more efficient for Toast so we can ramp up our customers quickly? And then how do we provide the right prompts at the right times to a customer who's getting used to our platform and our technology to get them comfortable using it? So we're focusing on some use cases and making sure we sort of use the data triggers to understand exactly how successful the customer is being in the onboarding journey, and provide the right prompts either internally or directly to the customer to help them along that journey. So it's an example of, the first few use cases that we want to build. But as I said, you could see this to provide prompts in product to do like product-led growth initiatives. You can see how you can use something like this to prompt an AE who might be visiting a customer, and you can tell them that, hey, the customer owns product X and but was on our website and looking at product Y, and maybe you want to talk to them about that. So it really allows us to create these insights that we can act on and support the customer better.
No, that's great. No, it's been really exciting for our team to partner with yours. I think Toast, from before the pandemic days to through all of the changes, and now with you as well there, we're really excited for this next phase of our partnership together.
Yeah. Look, and I likewise look forward to the continued partnership. Your team has been of great help and support as we've actually talked about how we build this microservices architecture, and we appreciate the continued support and look forward to ongoing engagement on that for sure. So
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And
all right,
stay in touch.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Vijay.
Bye. Hi, I'm really excited today to welcome Luis Enriquez, the head of Grabber Technologies. Grab is this amazing company that's just less than 10 years old. It started out with very humble beginnings with a mission to really help the women in Southeast Asia to kind of become independent and develop. And it's through those humble journeys, it's really come a very long way. I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a very big announcement. Maybe I will let Luis actually walk us through, Grab's journey and what they do, and where they're at and where they're headed a little bit. It's just exciting news.
Thank you, Vijay. Really appreciate it, and thank you for having me in this incredible forum, and for giving me an opportunity to spend some time with you and all the different people that are using Workato. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've been in this job a little bit over 2 years, and I've been working in technology for the past 28 years, and I have been a CIO of different, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies across the globe. But it's interesting, as you mentioned, of the title. My title is not CIO. My title is I'm the head of Grabber Technology Solutions, and I'm also the head of enterprise cybersecurity within Grab. And it's a title that is very close to my heart, because my organization is the one that is providing the technology to all our grabbers. And what that means, by we providing the technology to our grabbers, we're giving the capacity to all our company, our engineers, to create the whole concept of the super app. And to really go back in time, this company is less than 10 years old. It started in Malaysia as MyTaxi with one single goal, which was to provide safety and security for women and children as they were taking, taxis in Malaysia.
You're already like a very high-speed, light-speed company, and in the pandemic, just the number of new types of services that you were able to bring to the table and get into, financial services, partner with government. It just went from, just to warp speed. Now, when you are talking about grabbers, right? Now let's look at this from inside the company, right? So when you are like really just going from light speed to warp speed and just, fundamentally, just changing this concept and, this super app, right? That serves people in all these different ways. As the head of Grabber Technologies, how did you think about it, and how did you think about, what role did sort of, automation and technology, sort of internal technologies play in being able to support this transformation?
Malaysia went into a lockdown, and our entire the big part of our customer services is out of Malaysia. And we literally, people could not come to the offices to do to the call center. So we literally have to take all those environments and send people home. Mm-hmm. And all the service center was done from the homes of each one of these individuals. Mm-hmm. And we're talking thousands and thousands of mm-hmm. people. that we leverage technology, and we actually leverage in some of these cases, Workato, to give us the capability in a very short period of time, moving from a call center, physical, concentrated space, to push to a very geographical, very distributed environment, but with the capacity to provide service to the attendant that was going to be taking the calls for our clients, and at the same time making sure that the process that the client calling is not interrupted. And we got it done, and that was also but that was kind of like, thank God, because of the other two situations that happened before. There were a lot of lessons learned.
Yes.
There was a playbook that we have put in place, and there was also better understanding of tools like Workato in this case, that we knew that we could take recipes right away that it could help us.
Yeah.
So rather than go and building APIs, we could take recipes from Workato and just deploy and move forward faster.
Yeah, Luis, what I always really appreciated, about you is how you bring your partners to the table. I remember a conversation you and I had, like in one of those fill in the blank moments, like, hey, Vijay, this world is changing. This is where we are. This is what we need from Workato. Are you guys up for it? I think I really sincerely appreciated that conversation, and it just helps for us to know where we can help, how we can partner, and so that level of transparency across, with internally and externally, I think is probably part of this Warp Speed formula.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And one of the last things I would say quickly of our relationship with Workato, I have said this word now 5 times, the work servitude. And it's one of the things that goes beyond partnership. It's really the sense of service, and service beyond us, beyond the self. And one of the things that we have found, that I particularly have found with Workato, is that they very willingly took that upon themselves too, in the sense of concept of servitude that is beyond Workato, is beyond the company, is about how we make the place where we live better, and how we make it better through technology. And that makes a big difference. That really makes a difference. And Workato has really been there in some really interesting times for us. Hey, Vijay, thank you very much to you and the team for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. It's truly a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, let's talk about an iconic media brand, MGM, that's been around for 80 years. They've been on a major digital transformation journey ahead of their industry, moving to digital. Let's hear how they accelerated their vision through this pandemic. Welcome, Doug. Hi, I'm really excited to welcome Doug Russo, the CTO of MGM. And MGM is on an exciting journey of digital transformation and a digital strategy. So we'd be really looking forward to discussing the MGM's vision and how Doug and the team are enabling that. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Vijay. Nice to be here. Happy to discuss what we're doing.
Yeah, so why don't we start off with MGM is really got a very ambitious vision to around a completely a digital strategy, which I think it's a big initiative for you all. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Happy to, and I'll share a little slide as well in a moment. But yeah, so we're really on a transformation agenda called the digital supply chain. And I think why that's so interesting is content production companies and content distribution for our intellectual property is a huge set of processes that really transform an organization ripe for automation and really touches every aspect of the business. So Vijay, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of share with you and the audience a quick slide that kind of shows overall what is involved from a strategic consideration here, and the complexities, if you will, that go into our digital future.
That sounds great, Doug.
Perfect. So really what we've got is an ecosystem that really kind of encompasses everything from contracts, and contracts form the basis of all of our rights.
Mhm.
What do we have the right to sell? What have we acquired? What are we going to produce? And those rights in are then checked against what we have sold. So when we license content, we have to think about those called availabilities, avails. And that really forms the basis of the revenue engine for the company.
Mhm.
What have I acquired? What have I licensed? What do I have available to sell? So you can see there's a fair amount of data analytics that are involved in everything that we do. And you know, at the end of the day, we have to deliver content. And so the production processes all generate a host of core source assets that are ingested, that are packaged for sell. And of course, those go out to a number of different affiliates, MVPDs, and direct to consumer. So this entire ecosystem that I've described here really kind of shows everything in a rather simplistic but simple one-page slide, and how all of these things kind of relate and play together.
Talk a little bit about how, you know, how you kind of are tackling that kind of a challenge.
The same way anybody has to go about eating an elephant, Vijay. You do it one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Here, let me, this is a great leeway. Thank you for that. Let me quickly share this other piece of material that I think will help shape what that means. So if you look at the supply chain that you see on screen here, we really do think about transformation and breaking this down to, these are kind of like the pillars that you see on screen here, from pre-production to production, all the way up to the customer side on playout. So the transformation agenda, which by the way is a 2 to 3 year process, and we're in year 2, and we probably won't complete until back half of 2022 and maybe even to early 23. But you can see here, right, from a 30,000 foot view, it was really kind of digesting these different areas and understanding how content sources will flow, how the ideation process then generates production and acquisition strategies. And I'm not going to read through this entire slide for you, but each one of these domains represents not just a functional area, but one of these notions of, say, marketing and creative services. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of technology involved in marketing and creative service. So what we do and what we use Workato for is assisting in those processes whereby, I'll take a prime example. There is key art developed in the marketing process. That key art, talent art, and other artifacts that go into posters and one sheets and all those elements are all made of component assets. Those assets, while they're being worked on in this production and creative service marketing process, have to flow and move into our asset systems and also into the distribution system. So we use Workato to move that data and move the metadata associated with those elements, and ensure that when we have a single source of truth and an authoritative source, it is moved through our supply chain into the appropriate subscriber systems. So that's a great example of how we leverage your technology to really kind of bring together really important elements of this supply chain.
Wow, that is exciting. And you're doing this, in some ways, like while the car is on the racetrack, you're sort of moving sort of, systems like SAP and sort of on-prem technologies into the cloud, while you're also kind of rewiring these workflows. It's like you're making changes simultaneously at both levels, right?
Well, our journey really, Vijay, began just a couple of years ago when I started with MGM Studios and really did have to look across our company with on-premise everything, silos of storage arrays and various closets, Las Vegas co-located data center facility. We had to start from the ground up and initially start the process and the program with a full cloud migration of everything we had.
Yeah.
And we completed at the end of the last year, and that has enabled us to really start all of this automation and all of this integration, even on existing processes, by the way. This did not require us to reinvent and redeploy a bunch of new technology and new systems in order to gain value and bring some of the automation and some of the workflows together, even with existing methods. Spreadsheets. We eliminated 2,500 different spreadsheet processes already with Workato.
No, thank you so much for that. I think it's just been such a privilege to partner with you and have a little bit of a ringside view into the amazing sort of project and vision that you're down the path on. And it's just been like an honor to be part of that, be a small part of the journey with you, Doug. And I love your advice, like take this, big thing and one bite at a time, sort of the vision combined with pragmatism and execution. I think that's where the game is at, isn't it? So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Vijay. Appreciate it. And stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. The final group we'll talk to is the CTO of Broadcom and the CIO of Nutanix. Both of these leaders were at the forefront of automation before the pandemic. Yet, even they were surprised at the level of change that was needed over the past year. Let's hear their stories, starting with Andy from Broadcom. So next, I'm really thrilled to have Andy Nallappan, the Chief Technology Officer and Head of Software Business Operations at Broadcom. Prior to that, Andy was the global CIO of Broadcom. Andy presides over a sort of a very complex, global, very engineering and technology-driven organization. So Andy, there's over 20,000 employees at Broadcom. And I'm sure it was just like chaotic as the pandemic unfolded, like for everybody else. What surprised you the most, over how things sort of worked out over the last year?
Great question, Vijay. During the pandemic, I was a CIO. I'm managing the whole pandemic situation there. At the time, what really dawned on me is the definition of white glove support. Until pandemic, my understanding was white glove support means have the best people, like an executive support, be at the site, or go to their houses and be the next to the person and giving the full focused support there. But when the pandemic hit, we couldn't do that one there. So then the definition changed. So what really worked, what really gave that white glove support is that technology, which is reliable, which is consistent, which is touchless, which is available all the time, and which is faster. So basically, my surprise is the definition of white glove has changed overnight. In the last year, during the mid-March, when we all went home there. And the best outcome of that was, before the white glove support was, we were able to only extend to the executives and the few high-level people over there. But with this technology there, we could extend the same white glove support.
One of the other things I was always impressed, I think about how, Broadcom has approached these initiatives, that it was always sort of a, whole team approach, right? What made you sort of decide to leave the centralized sort of IT as a, service provider model behind to taking a whole team approach?
Okay, it is similar to when I said automation is now part of operations,
yes.
Not a project, not an initiative, it's part of operations. When you come to that understanding, automation is part of operations, part of the lights on, it has to be part of each process and each team there. It's not just an accountability and responsibility of a one team. And also I believe that when you have a one team to automate, you create a lot of friction. Between the teams who own the process and the team who does the automation there. When you make the automation part of people's job, there is no friction. And there is an enablement. They think that my job is getting better. My role is getting elevated there. And I always believe when somebody needs to move up, you need to eliminate your job. Here, you can enable them to eliminate your job during the automation so that you can move up in your career there. So that culture works, when you embed into every team, every process. Also, if you need to automate, with a high quality, with high success rate, it's important to have the people who know the process, also can do the automation. So it's becoming end-to-end, owned by a team who owns the process there. For that, in the olden days, automation was done by a separate team because automation wasn't a complicated effort. It required a lot of technology, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of process, a lot of tools there. But now, it's like a recipe, like Workato gives the recipes that it's like anybody can cook as long as the recipes are there. You just have to mix it. That mixing is much easier. Mixing it, putting it on a stove is easier than going and finding all these ingredients and buying everything. So that's why I think with this kind of tools and recipes, everybody can do it. That now it can become part of the team. It'll be much more successful, frictionless, and enabling this culture across the organizations will automate everything and anything possible, not just the one focus area there.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. It's just thinking from the point of view of how you want to do it, with automation in mind versus like doing it like manually and then trying to automate it. You probably end up with very different approaches and outcomes. So that's really insightful, Andy. I think it's always such a great pleasure to connect with you and catch up with you on all the things that you're doing, and congrats on all the success at Broadcom and throughout this difficult period to keep the teams together in this way. Thank you. Hi, I'm really excited to have Wendy Pfeiffer, the CIO of Nutanix, join us today. Wendy has always had a very a holistic and innovative approach to automation and delivering great experiences inside the company. We've had the fortune of partnering with Wendy for over a couple of years now. So Wendy, I wanted to just start out. I think you talked a lot about your vision for automation in the past, and you talked about dangers of entropy and being in a place that is just good enough. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It's great to have a chance to have this discussion. Look, we have just gone through one of the largest pivots of work you could imagine, pivoting from working in offices to working fully remotely. And for a little while there in IT, if we managed to make this pivot effectively, we were kind of resting on our laurels. We were saying, thank goodness we did this remote work thing, we won. Now we're thinking about returning to offices, but returning to offices is complex, right? There's, some folks will, some folks won't. There'll be differences from region to region. And so really we're returning to hybrid work, which is doing a little bit of everything. That is a very complex mode. And so, it's not the case that we can use our old methods in order to effectively and efficiently deal with this new mode. I mean, we could just be satisfied and say, well, we figured out how to use, Zoom or WebEx, so that's enough. But the problem is that, what we did is we jumped, out of the frying pan, sort of into the fire, when we pivoted to this remote work thing. It's a little bit like being a frog in a pot of water. And, here we are, we're sitting there in the pot of water and we're looking around and we're going, oh, this water's kind of nice. And, the universe turns up the burner on us and the water's getting hotter and hotter. Well, at first, if you're the frog in the pot of water, you're going, wow, this is nice. It's kind of a jacuzzi, but eventually you boil. And so there's this moment of entropy where you start to realize, this is more than I can handle, but I haven't done anything about it. I've been sitting here kind of resting in this comfortable place, and now I don't have the means to adapt. So good enough is not okay at this point in time. We're dealing with a time of unprecedented change, unprecedented challenges, and complexity is ahead of us. And so we can't be satisfied with good enough. We can't be satisfied with what we did last round to deal with the complexity. And so especially with hybrid models, with complexity and more than one mode and context switching and so on, we have to have models that are efficient, effective, pivot, change, adapt, are resilient, and we need to consistently have those models. And that's our challenge in IT, even if right now things are working well.
Of course, there is like your ideas, and then there is like, platforms and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And there must be a million ideas that are coming every single day, So how do you actually orchestrate and organize this innovation, right? I heard some, mention of like IT success framework that you have. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I realized that most IT people spend most of their time using legacy and existing enterprise technologies to enable their business.
Mhm.
But most of us would prefer to be using modern technologies to transform our businesses. It's just that we don't have the capacity for that. And so I developed a framework to shift the way that we were working. Like I said, we were spending about 70% of our time doing unplanned work. And the challenge with unplanned work is it's the least efficient kind of work. It leads to the most context switching, which accounts for about a 30% capacity drain. And it leads to the most rework. And in fact, the worst things that we do, the things that break the most often or are dissatisfying to employees or our users, those things cause the most rework. And so what we started to do with this methodology is we began to measure everything that we did. We measured every service that we delivered along two factors. One factor was called how often did we get it right the first time? So it comes from the lean programming space, and we just tried to figure out like what would it mean to get something right the first time? What would it mean to deliver Wi-Fi right the first time? And we defined that. We wrote that down in English. We said, I walk into an office and I open my laptop computer and Wi-Fi is enabled securely. It's that, right? So we wrote that down, and then we measured how often does that actually occur, right? And so that was one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle was around interaction design, sort of human enablement. When I want to get help for something, do I want to have to log into a ticketing system and find the right category and open a ticket? What human beings want to do when they want to get help is they want to just say, hey, does anybody know what the Wi-Fi password is, or whatever it might be, and they want to get a response to that. And then over on IT side, we don't want somebody to say that IT password out loud and have it bandied about, right? And so we describe both how would we like that process to work and how would people like to interact with that process. And then we just measured how often are we working in this ideal way. At the end of that process, we stack ranked every service that we delivered from worst to best. Mm-hmm. And I was very influenced at the time by a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits that said that people change their habits and change their ways of working and maybe even change cultures, not by big, broad brushstrokes, but with small, tiny changes. And in fact, the way that, for example, a human being who speaks one language learns another language is in a series of individual votes, a series of, learning vocabulary words, learning phrases, practicing, studying, and over time, you become a speaker of the new language. That's the same way that the machine learns, that machine learning algorithms are trained, is in this very same way. And so sort of put those two ideas together, and we realized that we actually didn't have to completely change everything about how we were working. We could take the service that we were delivering that was stack ranked the worst in both operational workflow and interaction design, and we could do sort of this magic process. Step one in the process is we document what is the ideal workflow, and then notice if we have any gaps between the ideal workflow and how we're actually delivering. We measure that. And then step two, we turn that issue, the gap, into a statement of purpose, a policy, a plan for how we're going to address that change. And then step three, we apply technology to that. And in 99% of the time, we apply a mix of technologies and we stitch together those technologies via automation. And if in my case, in my team's case, about 99% of us didn't have that sort of automation experience, and so that's where we brought Workato in.
Really, how this level of flow that can be achieved in a company happens. It's with so much, with intentionality and a plan, and it has just been, it's been a privilege for us to partner with you. We learned so much.
Thank you so much. I will tell you that I know I'm giving, a response in your keynote address, but genuinely, Workato has been a game changer for us. It's been that bridge code that allowed us to take this good idea for how we could enable our company and directly connect it to the experts who knew how to do that work. And so I was waiting for this technology. I was waiting for your tools, and you've been core to this transformation for us. So thank you, and the people who worked hard on this product. We really benefit from it.
Yeah. No, thank you, Wendy. I think it's, the honor and learning is ours. So thank you. And I think, have a great rest of the day.
Great, thanks.
I'm super grateful that you all have spent some time with me today. We talked about how a holistic and modern approach to automation can help you truly transform at scale within our companies. And we're excited to be on this journey together with you. For a lot of us, the hardest part of transformation is just getting started. So why not do what Wendy at Nutanix has been doing, a sprint per month, an ideas month, a governance month, and a Workato month for automating. Do this for 4 cycles, and you will, you'll be forever be changed. We have some amazing sessions later today that I hope you will check out. I will see you there, and have a great day.